Discover 4 spine-chilling, sinister truck stories, terrifying secrets exposed after 24 years. Mary's heart thumped like a drum as she crossed the darkened street of Willow Creek. The empty houses loomed ominously on either side, their windows like vacant eyes staring into the black night. After spending another long shift as a waitress, the only thing she wanted was to get home to her kids. But with the chilling rumors of the midnight hauler creeping back into the community, every shadow made her pulse race. Could the truck, with its haunting history of abductions and disappearances, be watching her now? The chilling stories from 2 decades ago still echoed in twists of conversation. Kids had gone missing, swallowed by the night, only murmurs remained, not clarity, just suspicions and whispers about a figure in a lurking truck that roamed the streets when the clock struck 12. As she walked, her skin prickled. A low rumble echoed in the distance. Had she heard a truck? Panic gripped her gut. The suffocating silence of the suburbs began to feel like a trap. The familiar sights, the postman's porch, the bakery where sweet bread wafted on mornings, everything transformed into a sinister backdrop for her dread. It was as if the community she had lived in for years was a facade, hiding the lurking evil beneath. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Staying alert, Mary quickened her pace, casting sidelong glances at the darkened houses. A twisted paranoia seeped into her thoughts. What if the predator wasn't an outsider, but someone she knew? The neighbor who always leaned over his fence with a friendly wave suddenly felt ominous. What kind of monster pretended to be a friend while hiding dark intentions? Suddenly, she froze. The unmistakable, a heavy engine rumbling to life, the haunting deep-throated growl echoing in the night. The midnight hauler, its very name dripped with fear and unease. Her breath caught in her throat. Just then, a shadow darted past her fence, a ghostly figure, precise and deliberate. Mary's chest tightened, she could sense that something was very, very wrong. She rushed home, her heart pounding. Once inside, relief washed over her. Her kids were asleep, blissfully unaware. But just as she found solace, the sound crashed through her senses, a heavy engine idling outside, vibrating through the walls. With trembling hands, she peered through the blinds. Her stomach dropped at the sight before her, that horrifying figure, half hidden in shadows, creeping toward the edge of her yard. It was like the manifestation of her nightmares, moving with eerie familiarity, as if he knew exactly where to stand to be just out of sight. Time seemed to stretch as dread suspended around her. Was he the figure from the rumors? The thought made her breath shallow with terror. In her gut, she felt it. This was just the beginning. Mary wasn't just witnessing a horror story, she was living it as the weight of the truth pressed down on her. Each moment ticked louder in the oppressive silence. And then her phone buzzed, jolting her. An unknown number, the message chilling, "Don't trust anyone. I see you." The world she thought she knew fractured before her eyes. What would happen when the darkness consumed the light? Would she could shield her children from what hunted in the dark? As worry and fear twisted in her belly, the night stretched on, leaving her with one burying question: had she finally uncovered the truth, or was it all about to unravel? Mary's heart raced as the shadow shifted, slowing its advance. The figure seemed to relish the terror it instilled, lingering just beyond the reach of the dim porch light. What did it want? What was its purpose? The knot in her stomach tightened, a relentless grip fueled by the unknown. She forced herself to breathe, shallow gasps escaping her lips. The rumble of the truck drowned out her thoughts, an impending storm of anxiety tightening around her. She had to act, but how? Was it worth risking a glance again to see if he was still there? The phone buzzed ominously, a cruel reminder that safety was an illusion. Don't trust anyone. The words echoed like a death knell. The thought of friends, neighbors, people she'd spoken to for years, filled her head like a swarm of angry bees. Was everyone a potential threat? With trembling fingers, she dialed her sister. No answer. Just voicemail. Her heart sank further into an abyss of fear. She couldn't risk alerting whoever was lurking outside. What if he heard her? What if he was tracking her every move? A sudden scream pierced the silence of living rooms wrapped in slumber. It was a child's voice echoing in the night. Mary's heart stopped. Was it her children? She turned her head sharply to the hallway, every fiber of her being screaming for action. That noise was too close, too intimate. But the shadows outside shifted again, and the figure bore into her with an intensity that chilled her skin. The doorbell rang, a harsh, jarring noise that exploded in the empty quiet of her home, compelling her to jump in place. Her legs moved of their own accord, a primal instinct to protect, to confront the unknown. She crept toward the front door, stifling her breath with each step. Through the peephole, she squinted. Nobody. The porch lay empty, and yet the truck's engine still growled, mocking her fear. Moments stretched into eternities as she ran a hand through her hair, trying to gather her thoughts, then it began to dawn on her, the logic twisted like a knife in her gut. The report said the midnight hauler never appeared alone. Often, he had companions, accomplices. What if the children's screams were only the beginning? Mary's instincts kicked in. There was a small bat in the closet, just within reach. She backed into the hallway, desperate for a weapon, desperate for some sense of security. As she turned, she was sure she glimpsed the figure sliding closer, but she dared not look back. She grabbed the bat and swung it without hesitation in front of her, steadying her breath. Whatever was out there, it would not catch her off guard again. The front door seemed to mock her with its stillness now, and the kids' distant noises warred against the tension. She took a breath, ready to face her nightmare, but a loud crash reverberated against the back door. The ice-cold fear gripped her throat as her pulse quickened. The shadows danced and flickered. Heart in her throat, soul on edge, she turned to confront the threat. Who was in her house? She stood frozen, bat raised, her next move uncertain. The world outside spiraled into chaos, whispers of a captured childhood echoed through her home, and beneath her feet, the floor felt unsteady, alive. What waited just beyond the door? Mary swallowed hard. The darkness had answers she feared to uncover. As someone pounded relentlessly, shattering her fragile composure, she wondered if she could confront whatever horror lurked within the shadows or if it would consume her whole. What came next would hold the truth of her greatest fears. The heavy banging on the back door reverberated through Mary's core, each thud sending shards of fear spiraling into her gut. Time seemed suspended, the air thick and electric, and every instinct told her to flee. But no. She couldn't abandon her children. Mommy. Please. The cries grew louder, a frantic plea that launched her heart into a frenzy. The pain in her chest intensified, an ache for her kids as realization washed over her. They were in there, somewhere willing herself to move. Mary tightened her grip on the bat and dashed toward the source of the distress. Shadows fluttered like moths in the corners of her vision, her mind grappling with the specter of the unknown lurking outside. Mommy. They called again, muffled but unmistakably from her children's room at the end of the hallway. Every beat of her heart echoed like a countdown, a stark reminder that with every second passing, danger encroached closer. With painstaking slowness, she reached the door to their room, her breath hitching in her throat. The handle felt impossibly cold to the touch, metal against her sweaty palm. But she couldn't back away no matter how terrifying the thoughts spiraling through her mind. She had to confront this hellish nightmare. Mommy, help. The voice was primed with dread. With a surge of determination, she flung the door open. But the room was empty. Her heart stalled and then raced once more. The bed was unmade, the toys scattered across the floor. The weak light from the single, fading bulb overhead illuminated only the remnants of their childhood, leaving the shadows still looming, heavy. Mary stepped inside, her senses screaming for answers. Something was wrong in a way she couldn't articulate. The air felt thicker than before, as if it were infused with the weight of foreboding. She scanned every inch, ready for something to leap from the shadows, every nerve taut with anticipation. The window lay ajar, curtains billowing slightly in the evening breeze, whispering secrets she dared not understand. The screams had stopped. Muffled cries turned to eerie silence. "Dylan? Emma?" she shouted. Her heart thundered as the silence answered with an unsettling stillness, every moment stretching painfully. Then the sound came again, a soft rustle, deliberate and mocking from somewhere in the closet. Mary's breath quickened. The bat was all she had, yet it felt woefully inadequate against whatever hunted her. With a shaky hand, she gripped the bat tighter and faced the darkened closet, the door slightly ajar. The dread coiled itself tighter around her heart as she took a step closer, poised to swing at the first movement. "Don't move," she whispered to herself, trying to ground her spiraling thoughts. The floor creaked beneath her feet like the sound of silent laughter in the emptiness. Panic flashed as she yanked the closet door open. The small space was empty. No clothes, no toys, just an unbroken wall that seemed to hum with malice. But before she could process this revelation, she heard a distinct sound filling the silence of the room. The unmistakable click of the front door unlocking, followed by the heavy creak as it swung wide. A figure slipped through, cloaked in shadow, their presence a heavy mist of dread. Mary's breath caught. Her mind raced, her last line of defense crumbled. "Mommy," echoed from the shadows. The voice was familiar and yet wrong. Mary's heart felt ready to burst as she stood frozen, every breath an act of defiance against impending horror. What darkness was creeping into her home now? As the figure stepped into the light, revealing a face she knew all too well, Mary stumbled backward, a new horror dawning on her. The last thing she expected was standing right before her. What had she unleashed? Mary's throat tightened as recognition mingled with disbelief. The face before her, illuminated by the waning light, was that of her husband, Tom. But it wasn't really him. Not the man who used to cradle their children, nor the one who would sing them to sleep. This figure bore a twisted semblance of the man she loved, his features warped by something malevolent. "Tom?" she managed to choke out, clutching the bat as if it were a lifeline. Her heart twisted in a vice of confusion and dread. She had buried him. His funeral was a raw scar in her memory. He was gone. This creature before her was a cruel mockery, a shattered reflection of everything she had lost. "Mommy," his voice dripped with an unsettling mix of affection and something darker, a tone that sent chills snaking down her spine. "I've come home." He stepped closer, and her instincts screamed to flee. But she ground her feet into the floor, desperate to protect her children, to understand. "Where are the kids?" she demanded, the bat shaking in her grip. "What have you done to them?" Tom's smile was ghastly, a grin that split his face too wide, stretching impossibly as if it could devour the light. "They're safe, sweetheart. They're just playing. You know how they love to hide." Reality twisted as her mind raced. Hide? The sickening way he spoke felt wrong in her bones, and dread surged within her. He hadn't come home, he'd brought something back, something that shouldn't have crossed the boundary of life and death. The shadows in the room flickered, swelling with the promise of danger. Suddenly, the children's voices echoed through the house again but became disjointed, merging into one unholy harmony, a strange incantation that sent chills racing across her skin. "Mommy, come play with us, we're waiting." The veil of innocence shattered in her mind, and panic seized her like a vice. "You're not him," she yelled. "You're not my husband." Each assertion was a desperate plea, an attempt to claw back to reality. Tom's form quivered, almost imperceptibly, and for a moment, there was a glimmer of the husband she knew, eyes brightening, the warm smile she remembered. But it vanished quickly, leaving only the mask of terror where the man used to be. Darkness began to pool around him, tendrils creeping along the floor and curling toward her, whispering promises of despair. "Stay with me, Mary, we can be a family again." Nothing mattered but finding her children. Her mind screamed it over and over as the room threatened to collapse around her, shadows stretching like fingers that yearned to pull her into the dark. "Where are they?" she demanded, raising the bat high, ready to strike at this impostor. She could feel the air growing colder, an unnatural chill wrapping around her as the weight of his presence pressed heavier. He pointed toward the closet, a raspy breath escaping his lips. "They're in there, Mommy, come and see." Mary glanced to where he gestured, her heart racing as understanding began to dawn. This creature was trying to lure her in, to trap her in its web of horror. She could feel the ground quaking beneath her, each heartbeat a countdown to something horrific. A door creaked open deep within her mind, revealing the truth hidden in the depths of despair. She was alone. The man she had loved was gone, all that remained was this abomination. With a scream that shattered the silence, she swung the bat towards him, but he evaporated like smoke. The shadows had devoured him whole, leaving the room eerily still again. "Mommy!" The soft, sweet voices from the closet had turned into a shriek of anguish, clawing at her last thread of sanity. She had to make a choice. Her eyes darted to the closet door, its silhouette now menacing and alive. Would the truth be waiting behind those doors? The answer echoed within her, and she felt its weight pressing down on her. What would she discover if she stepped forward? The darkness beckoned. Mary's heart pounded in her chest as she stood frozen before the closet, the whispers growing more urgent, more desperate. "Mommy, please. We're scared, come find us." A baleful laughter echoed within her mind, mingling with the haunting timbre of her children's voices. She felt the hairs on her neck prickle and a cold sweat bead on her forehead. Gathering what little courage remained, she edged closer to the closet. The dark wood looked warped and warped, shadows spilling out like ink seeping into water. She could almost feel the space vibrating with emotion, a pulsing energy that beckoned her to step over the threshold. "Please, they need you." Tom's voice suddenly swirled in the air, thick and suffocating. It was a mix of longing and menace. Mary's breath hitched as her fingers trembled on the doorknob, fighting to break free from her paralysis. But what awaited her on the other side? "Mommy!" The children's persistence was relentless, sending a wave of despair cascading over her. She could already picture their innocent faces, smiles wide and eyes sparkling, waiting to be rescued. Yet, an overwhelming fear gripped her heart, a nagging doubt that this was a trick. She gripped the bat tighter, the wooden surface splintering under her trembling fingers. Somehow, she knew that if she opened this door, the world would shift again. Yet the air thickened, pulling her in as though it had a will of its own. "Just a crack," she whispered to herself. "Just to see." With a deep inhale, she turned the knob and yanked the closet door open, her heart racing. The darkness rushed out like a tidal wave, consuming her whole, sucking the light from the room. At first, she saw nothing but a hollow abyss. It felt alive, a gaping mouth ready to swallow her whole. "Mommy!" The voices did not fade, but came alive, swirling around her like a cyclone of terror. And then, glimmers of light flickered within the gloom, tiny hands bursting forth, small shadows darting past her eyes, quick and fleeting. But the faces that emerged weren't of her children. They were twisted, distorted, filled with anguish. Mary stumbled backward as the realization hit her like a train. They were souls trapped, hollow beings seeking absolution, their eyes wide and pleading. "Help us, Mommy." They reached out, fingers clawing through the darkness, solidifying into forms that threatened to merge with her own essence. "No!" she screamed, slamming the door shut just in time as a howl of rage erupted from within. The sounds thudded against the door like a trapped animal, desperate to escape into the light. Her pulse pounded in her ears, and she felt the weight of despair settling heavily upon her shoulders. "Why won't you save them?" The voice now came like a hiss through the grain of the wood, dark and sweet, wrapping around her neck like a noose. It was Tom, or what had become of him. "You don't even care." The darkness will claim them unless you come back. There was no escape. She knew that now. Whatever she faced, it was insatiable, feeding off fear and dread, growing stronger as she stood in her indecision. Then, an idea ignited in her mind. The bat. Maybe it was more than a weapon. Perhaps it could be a talisman, a bridge to confront whatever nightmare awaited. With a fierce resolve, she took a step toward the closet again, breath hitching as she lifted her bat high, prepared to face the darkness head-on. But before she could swing, the closet door swung open of its own accord. Chilled air rushed out, thick with secrets. Shadows spewed forth like an angry tide, ready to engulf her. "Mary, the truth is here," the voice came again, tender yet twisted, echoing with promises of terror. Would she dare to step forward? Would she risk everything to uncover the truth or remain in ignorance? As she peered deeper into the shadows, she felt something grasp onto her ankle, the cold, clammy touch of despair. "Join us, we're waiting," she gasped, the darkness pulling her closer into its depths. What grotesque secrets lay buried in the dark? The darkness closed in, but her choice lingered in the air, heavy and suffocating. Would she uncover the reality that had driven her to this edge, or would she become yet another lost soul, forever entwined in the horrors locked behind that closet door? Mary's breath came in ragged gasps as the shadows danced around her, whispering secrets that chilled her bones. The cold seeped into her skin, paralyzing her, yet a pulse of anger ignited her resolve. If these entities were souls trapped, could she not save them? "Stay away!" she shouted, brandishing the bat like a lighthouse beam. The whispers paused, moments stretching into eternity, the darkness hesitant. In that split second, she heard her children's laughter filter through the cacophony, bright and innocent. Hope surged. "I will find you!" she yelled, charging into the vortex. She felt the air shift as she was swallowed whole, the bat raised above her head, a clumsy sword for her battle against the encroaching dark. The world twisted, colors bleeding into one another until the shadows morphed into shapes. She stumbled along a dimly lit corridor lined with doors, each marked with names she could barely comprehend. The air crackled with static, sending jolts through her spine. An unfamiliar dread fluttered in the pit of her stomach. "Mommy!" came a faint voice from her left. Mary turned, hope fueling her movements. The door swung slightly, beckoning like an open palm. She rushed forward, hesitating just long enough to gather herself. "Tommy! Is that you?" She flung the door open, metallic hinges screeching in protest. Inside stood a room impossible to confront. The walls shimmered with darkness, writhing in human forms, trapped souls, their faces twisted in agony. Mary's heart sank as recognition overcame her. These were lost spirits, guardians of a truth she hadn't been ready to see. "Help us!" they cried out, their voices unified in a mournful choir, each soul reaching for her, attempting to siphon her light. "No!" she screamed, stepping back, but the door slammed shut behind her. Shadows darted forward, closing the escape route. Panic seized her throat. "What do you want?" "You have to choose," a deeper voice echoed, its tone viscous and wet, as if the darkness itself conspired against her. "Choose what?" Her voice trembled, eyes darting back and forth as she searched for some flicker of sanity. "You want me to join you?" The darkness pulsed around her, revealing glimpses of a light, flickers of her life before this nightmare. Her home, her children's laughter, moments of love. But they shattered into shards of glass, replaced by memories of guilt. "You left us," the shadows whispered, an accusation heavy with consequence. "No!" she screamed, gripping her bat tighter, visions of her children flickering in her mind. "I didn't leave you. I looked for you." The shadows writhed in confusion, uncertainty creeping into their cacophony. They recoiled slightly, faces shifting, showing fleeting glimpses of her children's smiles before twisting back into anguish. "Choose," the voice rasped again, closing in on her. "Embrace the darkness, or free us." Mary felt as if the weight of the world was on her shoulders. Time stretched and twisted, the shadows taunting her desperation. Could she indeed free them? Or would the price be too high? With a sense of resolve, she stood tall, bat raised. I will not forsake my children. I will face whatever is between us. The darkness reacted, swirling violently, howling in outrage as if her words ignited a spark. The room trembled, and for a moment, she thought she could see them, Tom and Lila, their arms outstretched, but then the darkness roared, "You think you can do this alone?" The world split apart, shadows unraveling, faces colliding, and Mary felt herself slipping, falling into obscurity. The brightly flickering lights of her children were fading, the choice she had to make pulling her deeper into despair. She was losing them, and with every ounce of strength she clung to the hope that their love could save them all. As she drifted, the voices turned sinister, a diabolical whisper seeping into her thoughts, "Your children await. All you need to do is step a little closer." What would she sacrifice to save them? The shadows writhed and howled, their anguished forms spilling toward Mary like a flood intent on drowning her in despair. Her heart raced as dark tendrils closed in, reaching for her, their chilling whispers twisting around her fear. "Get away!" she screamed, swinging the bat wildly, desperation fueling her futile attempt to fight back. With every impact, the shadows recoiled slightly, howling in a cacophony of pain, but they pressed closer. Each stroke of the bat felt like a thread unraveling her sanity, desperate for the warmth of her children that felt so close, yet so painfully far away. "Mommy!" The cries echoed again, this time louder, filled with need. In that moment, doubt crept in as the lights dimmed. The familiar urge to flee bubbled beneath her skin. But she had come too far, hadn't she? She couldn't turn back now. The deeper voice returned, slicker than before, dripping with malice. "You could be one of us, Mary. You could feel the freedom from this pain." "Freedom?" She spat back, her voice strong yet shaky. "You mean surrender? I want to become like you." The walls groaned as if agreeing, or perhaps protesting, she couldn't tell. It was disorienting, this maze of agony and temptation. She could see their faces blurry, but longing. Tommy, Lila, calling out, begging in a way that could distort the heart of any mother. They flickered like candle flames in a storm, wavering and flickering total darkness. "Will you, Mary?" taunted the shadows. "Will you embrace your true self? Your children need a mother who isn't afraid, who isn't soft in the face of terror and oh." She yelled, feeling the swell of memories crashing down like tidal waves. Every decision, every moment she missed with them rushed through her mind, each filled with laughter, joy, and sticky hands on her face. The darkness could have them, but not her. "I will fight the fear." With her bat held high, she charged at the nearest shadow, a twisted figure resembling a woman with hollowed eyes. It shrieked, contorting as Mary battered through the cluster surrounding her. But for every shadow she fought off, more rushed in, their whispers intensifying with each heartbeat. They clung to her, pulling her into a breadth of despair that threatened to devour her whole. Then suddenly, the chaos froze. The shadows pulled back, and for a moment, an opening appeared, a clearer vision of Tommy and Lila. Their faces shone, bright with hope, even in this void. "Mommy!" they called. A warmth filled the chamber, stretching like a light in a darkened room. It shone against the overwhelming anguish. It was a lifeline. "Believe in us," they urged, voices like musical notes weaving through the pain. Surging forward, she raced toward them, but the shadows surged back, coiling like serpents, whispering her deepest fears. "You can't save them, Mary. You can only save yourself." She faltered, doubt pooling in her stomach. The light dimmed, their faces flickering like ghosts in a storm. "It's a choice," the voice echoed softly. "Which do you love more? Them or yourself? In the end, all you have to decide is how much you're willing to lose." The whispers breathed, haunting her, suffocating the resolve she had clung to. Just as she felt her spirit waver, a surge of fire ignited within her, fueled by love and hurt, igniting her senses. "I choose them!" she roared, battering through the pain once more, raising the bat with raw fury, determined to break through the suffocating dark, but even as she fought her way forward, the chilling uncertainty clawed at her heart. What if the darkness was right? As the passage twisted once more around her, the shadows convulsed in rage, their wails reaching a eardrum-bursting pitch. Deep within the haze, a new voice broke free, a voice that sounded eerily familiar, but it wasn't Tommy or Lila. It was something darker. "Join us," it said, alluring yet sinister. "We can promise you everything," Mary screamed, her heart clawing through the blackened void. What more could she sacrifice? Would her choice be enough to save them? The darkness pulsed, ready to draw her deeper in, closer to its malicious heart. The whispers beckoned, and the room began to collapse around her. Desperate to hold on, Mary grasped the bat like a lifeline. Was there anything left to fight for, or had she already lost herself in this nightmare? The answer slipped away, but she had to know. What awaits in the depths of their despair? The shadows surged once more, their presence overwhelming like a sickening tide. The mesmerizing voice continued to seep into her mind, promising salvation through surrender. "We are the escape you crave, the peace you deserve. Embrace us, Mary." "No." Her voice broke as terror clawed at her throat. But even as she shouted, she felt her grip on reality start to unravel. The world around her blurred, shapes melting into the void. The only certainty was the deep, pulsing fear resonating in her chest. Desperation had a weight, it pressed down on her, threatening to collapse her in on herself. Each breath became a battle as the shadows pulled her deeper into their dark embrace. She could hear the laughter, echoing against the walls lined with torment. Laughter that twisted and turned into a cacophony of jeering. "Mommy! Help us!" Tommy and Lila's voices danced through the darkness like flickering shadows growing dimmer with every moment. They weren't far away, she could feel their lives, their warmth, but it was fading fast. Mary staggered back, her heart racing. She spun in circles, searching for a way out. "Stop! Let them go!" She swung the bat, striking out wildly, but the shadows rolled over her blows as if they were laughing at the effort. Each swing grew heavier, and her resolve began to shatter. The ground beneath her feet trembled, a deep, throaty rumble echoing through the open void. Was it a tremor of warning, or the shadows laughing at her turmoil? Mary lowered the bat, her breath hitching as exhaustion wrapped itself around her like a shroud. It would be so easy to give in, to let their darkness seep into her soul. Suddenly, the vision of her children burst to the forefront of her mind again. Their faces, round and innocent, staring at her with pleading eyes. "Mommy, please." The warmth of their love wrapped around her like a protective blanket. "Don't give in. We need you." The shadows recoiled, sensing her hesitation. "You see? They are only a memory. Embrace something real. Embrace your true self and let the burden of being a mother fade. You can be free." The voice cooed softly, caressing her fears like a lover's whisper. Mary's heart pounded with renewed vigor. "No." She spat. "You don't know what love is. I will never leave them behind." The shadows twisted violently, a hurricane of darkness, shrieking in fury as she took a step back toward the light of her children's faces. Their lies. Deceptions. The chorus of voices howled, each syllable dripping with malice. "Join us, Mary. Let go of your weakness." With each passing moment, the pressure mounted. The shadows pressed against her skin like icy tendrils, suffocating in their determination to pull her into their eternal embrace. She could feel the moisture on her palms, slick with cold sweat, every instinct telling her to flee. But Mary had made her choice. "Get away from me!" she screamed, and in a moment of clarity fueled by pure desperation, raised her bat high above her head. It felt weighty, almost dreamlike, in her hands, but there was no room for doubt. She had to break through. As she swung the bat down, the impact was like a thunderclap, echoing through the abyss. Shadows shrieked, the sound crashing against her ears. The walls shook as if the very universe reacted to her defiance. For a heartbeat, the dark entities faltered, their grasp momentarily slipping, but before she could savor the victory, the darkness roared back stronger than before, a flood determined to consume her entirely. The shadows writhed like a serpent, coiling tighter, pulling her toward a void that promised oblivion. Why fight? Why suffer? The voice rose again, deep and persuasive. You can end this pain. Embrace your darkness. Join us, Mary. With a primal cry, Mary felt the last strands of her resolve slipping. Her heart pounded wildly, she could hear her children's cries intertwining with the shadows' laughter, a melody of chaos and hope. Then, in the depths of despair, a flicker of an idea ignited within her. It bubbled along her spine, a flick of rebellion that wouldn't die. No, I will find you. She shouted, determination igniting. No matter what. But the shadows lunged, fed by her fear, desperate to extinguish that flame. Would she have the strength to hold on to her truth? Or had she already lost herself to the very darkness she fought? As the void rushed closer, the boundaries between pain and hope blurred like smoke. Mary took a deep breath, ready to make her final stand, but as she did, a figure emerged from the swirling dark. It loomed large and familiar, its presence sending a chill down her spine. Mary, the figure whispered, its voice both known and alien. It's time to face the truth. A final shriek erupted from the shadows, while the figure reached out, beckoning her into their suffocating embrace. Could she confront whatever lay behind that face? Or would her choice lead to devastation? The figure stepped closer, its outline sharpening against the darkness. Mary squinted, trying to see through the swirling gloom. The shadows screamed behind it, their voices merging into a maddening surge. It was the last thing she wanted to hear. A name echoed through the chaos, stirring within her. Evelyn. The name sent a shiver down her spine, dredging up memories she had buried deep. Her sister, lost to the abyss of their childhood nightmares, had always wielded an unexplainable power over darkness. You shouldn't have come back, Mary, the figure continued, its voice now sharper, cutting through the shrill cacophony. They're here because of you. They want you. Evelyn, her heart raced in protest, words tangled in fear. She had suppressed the memories of her sister's descent into madness, of whispers in the dark that led to her disappearance. She had thought no, hoped that the nightmares had ended with Evelyn's absence. The shadows rumbled, gaining strength from her unease. Tendrils snaked at her feet, wrapping like serpents. Join us. Embrace the truth, Evelyn urged, her gray eyes piercing through the darkness, shifting between chilling and sorrowful. I've waited for you to wake up. Mary stumbled back, clutching the bat in trembling hands. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body was paralyzed, entrapped in the tangled web of memories and supernatural threats. You aren't real. You're just part of this nightmare. Am I? Evelyn's smile was eerily calm. You pushed me away, just like you're doing now. But I'm here to show you. Don't you see? She gestured, and darkness rippled around them, revealing flashes of forgotten moments. Mary, a child, shivering under her bedsheets, whispers taunting her, Evelyn, laughing heartily as shadows flitted in the corners, beckoning like familiar friends. Remember when we played those games? Evelyn's voice was lyrical now, coaxing, tugging at an innocence long overshadowed by fear. They can be your friends again. You just have to let go. No. Mary shouted, fighting against the remnants of nostalgia that threatened to ensnare her. I want to let you take me. The temperature dropped as the shadows erupted in rage. You are too weak. You cannot resist. They bellowed, voices colliding in a frenzy of sound that rattled her bones. But as Evelyn's hand gestured again, the shadows swirled faster, dragging Mary toward the void at her back. Give in. Embrace what you've always wanted. No more pain, no more struggle. just relief. Mary squeezed the bat tighter, the wood digging into her palms, a lifeline amidst the storm. A desperate resolve surged within her, uninvited memories flickering through her mind like brushstrokes on a canvas filled with agony. "I'd rather suffer than be your puppet." From the darkness, a howl erupted, a grating sound that made her bones ache. The shadows were enraged, swirling around her like a cyclone, trying to suffocate the remnants of her will. "Your children, you'll lose them forever," Evelyn said, her tone shifting to a demonic purr. "Isn't it too late? They'll be gone, Mary. Just like I was. You're facing a losing battle." Something snapped in Mary. She surged forward, batting aside the shadows that lurked too close, holding Evelyn's gaze with iron determination. "No. I will break this cycle. You can't have me." With all her might, she swung the bat, sending a shockwave through the air that shattered the cacophony. The darkness howled yet again, retreating momentarily, stunned by her defiance. But it wasn't over. The darkness roared back, swirling violently, its fury promising retaliation. In the chaos, shadows twisted back into the figure of her sister. "You think you can fight me? You don't even know the truth of who you are." "How can I fight you if I don't know the truth?" Mary shouted, fear intertwining with fiery instigation. "Then I will show you," Evelyn hissed, her eyes ablaze with a sinister glow that sparked recognition deep within Mary's soul. Just as Mary felt the last inklings of hope begin to fade, the shadows surged forward, swallowing her in darkness. Desperation clawed at her chest. Would she uncover the truth, or was she destined to lose herself to the very shadows she fought? And as the void snatched her breath away, a chilling realization dawned upon her. Perhaps the key to her light rested not just within her children's cries, but buried deep in the heart of her chaotic past. What had she forgotten? And how far was she willing to go to discover the access point to her salvation? Mary felt the familiar weight of despair crash around her as shadows writhed like serpents, coiling through the darkness that threatened to consume her whole. She could hear the whispers of those trapped inside, echoing through the void. "Mommy," they mourned, their voices hauntingly familiar yet twisted. "Help us." Taking a deep breath, Mary steeled herself against the chaos. The unsettling presence of Evelyn loomed in the shadows, continuously beckoning her toward the abyss. "You can't win," the lure of her sister echoed, drenched in an alluring pitch. "You'll only bring more pain. Join us." "No." Clenching the bat tighter, Mary pushed against the shadows, stepping further into the oppressive darkness that threatened to pull her deeper. "I want to abandon them." She could feel the flicker of hope, her children's faces shining in her mind, igniting the fire of determination within her heart. The shadows clawed at her skin, cutting, scratching at her resolve, trying to break through the wall of love that she fortified. Suddenly, the floor beneath her feet trembled. "You believe you can love through this darkness? Your heart is weak." Evelyn roared, her voice dripping with venomous sorrow. The shadows surged, testing Mary's stamina. "They will suffer because of your failure." "No!" she shouted, the scream tearing from her throat like a lifeline. The bat felt heavy yet invigorating in her hands, her shield against the chaos spiraling around her. "I am their mother. I will fight for them." With newfound resolve, she swung the bat, connecting with shadows that twisted around her. Each strike pushed back against the dark entities clawing for her soul. They shrieked, recoiling, and for a moment, she could see them distinctly, the faces of children, their smiles warped by grief. It drove her determination further. As she swung again, those faces morphed, twisted images of guilt, shadows of her past bleeding into the present. Evelyn's figure danced forward, taunting in the dark mist, "You know that this is pointless. You cannot save them if you are lost." "No!" Mary shouted back, tears streaming down her face. "I will remember who they are. I will remember who I am." The shadows coiled tighter, but she could see fragments of light breaking through the darkness. Memories flooded her mind, her children's laughter, warmth of their hugs, endless bedtime stories that painted dreams. They fueled her like firewood, igniting an overwhelming force. "I will never let go of them," she yelled defiantly. The shadowy tendrils screamed in protest, but Mary stood braced, its howls only driving her resolve deeper. "I am more than a reflection of fear. I carry their love with me." With a colossal swing, she impacted the nearest shadow. It disintegrated into shimmering dust that glittered like captured stars. "I will not let anything take them." She surged forward, bolstered by their voices calling her from within. "Mommy, please." They reached for her with desperate hands, their warm shadows desperate for connection. Feeling their energy surge through her, Mary powered through the shadows, each step echoing with their calls. The darkness around her writhed, fading back with every stride, the bellows of the shadows turning to wails. They screamed, a horrendous cacophony building behind her. Mary pushed, each heartbeat a sledgehammer against the dark. She could see it amidst the darkness, a light flickering like a distant promise. She was close. "Shut it out!" Evelyn shrieked as shadows lunged at her from every angle. But frail whispers of guilt and doubt fell as dust against the surge of light. "Stop!" Screams of the shadows surrounded her, suffocating her resolve, but she pressed on. With one final thrust, she swung the bat, shattering the veil of darkness around her. The room exploded into light. "Mommy!" Her kids burst forth from the shadows, their figures solid and real. She pulled them into her arms, warmth and life flooding her senses. She felt relief wash over her, coursing through her veins. The shadows twisted and contorted, writhing against the walls, trapped by the light of love. Radiating around them, they erupted in discord, and the air split with their howls. "This is not the end," they shrieked, weaving despair into their voices. "You belong to us." Mary huddled against Tommy and Lila, feeling their tiny hearts beating in tandem. "I'm here. You're safe now." Their warmth anchored her, and she lifted her chin, staring defiantly into the darkening void. With a sudden swell of courage, she proclaimed, "I embrace my love. You can never take that from me. You cannot claim what you do not own." The shadows hesitated, recoiling at her fortitude. The walls trembled, swirling into a vortex of despair under the weight of her conviction. With one final swing, she shattered the remnant still lingering, dispelling the shadows that clutched at her heart. In a blinding flash, light engulfed them entirely. Silence settled as the dust faded, like whispers carried off by the wind. What lay before her now was reality. She clutched her kids, feeling their warmth and heartbeat pulse against her chest. "It's over now," she murmured, tenderness washing over her. They hugged tightly, the warmth against the chilling night wrapping them in safety. On that darkened street, where shadows lurked and fears prowled, Mary had found her light. "Let us go home," she whispered, pushing through the darkened pathway, ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that they had triumphed together. As Mary stepped into the glow of the street lamp, she took in a deep breath and smiled. They were okay. And as the darkness faded, the memories of that night began to distill into hope. No more whispers would haunt them. They were free. You need to subscribe now for more thrilling stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this content alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this explosive ending. I want to hear your thoughts, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a taste of this conclusion. Thank you later.